Hi, in my Bonnie Dundee. It is another dark day. It's almost 2 o'clock and it's dark, kind of cold, and it's very, very windy. If I stop talking, I don't know if it will record, but all I've been listening to today is the wind. I can hear it in every room of the house. Which I don't mind if I were going to bed, but I'm not because it's barely 2 o'clock. So, if it's going to do that, hopefully it will continue to do that when I finally get into bed because I like to fall asleep to the sound of the wind or the sound of rain against my windows. Got a question for you, which I hope you will answer in the comments below. What is the most disturbing movie you have ever watched? And when I say disturbing, I'm not talking about horror movies, although if that's what you want to answer, dude, feel free to do that. I'm talking about disturbing along the lines of Schindler's List or The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, The Diary of Anne Frank, The Hiding Place. I never plan, since being retired, what movies I'm going to watch, I just watch them. I like movies. I always have, so. Plus, because one of my favorite channels is YouTube, and I'm a premium subscriber, they always suggest stuff in the recommended things. So, this morning, when I turned on my TV and went to YouTube, they suggested that I watch the 1989 film A Dry White Season. This takes place in apartheid South Africa. And I've only seen it the one time. I watched it maybe 3 months when it came out, 3 months after it came out in 1989. And it stars Donald Sutherland, who I love, Marlon Brando, who I adore, Zaks Moake, who was a notable South African stage and screen performer. And let me see, there's somebody else, but I'm leaving them out, but that's okay. No, wait. Donald Sutherland, Susan Sarandon, Zaks Moake, and Marlon Brando. Okay. When I watched it at the time in 1989, I was 32 years old, and I don't think Mandela had been freed yet. But like many people globally, we had been following the apartheid situation in South Africa. And most people, at least people with a conscience, were appalled by the whole thing. Anyway, Mandela was eventually released and became the first president in a democratic South Africa. And life and the world and the globe moved forward. But when this movie was released and I watched it, I was disturbed, and I swore, like I did after seeing Schindler's List, that I would never, ever watch this movie again. Let's fast forward to 2025 when the movie shows up in my recommended watching, and I thought, let's watch it again. I'm older, and as you get older, your values change sometimes. Your perspective definitely changes. So I watched it again, and I just finished it. The movie received 10 Oscar nominations, and it got one, Marlon Brando, for Best Supporting Actor, as the white South African lawyer who tries to defend the murder of a black African man by the white South African Special Police Forces. I remembered all over again why in 1989 when I first saw it, I swore I would never watch this movie again. It's a very disturbing watch. The disparities between the lives of the white South Africans and the black Native Africans are very stark. The movie opens with a lovely scene of a young black boy and a young white boy playing soccer in what is obviously the young white boy's garden. But they're happy and they're playing together, and then the scene switches to Soweto, which is where the majority of the movie takes place. And if you saw Cry Freedom, or were aware back then, woke as they call it now, you know what was going on in Soweto. At any rate, Donald Sutherland's character is a teacher in a South African school, a private school. His name is Benjamin du Toit, and he teaches history. And he has a son named Johan and a daughter named Suzanne. Suzanne is older and married and not living in the house, and Johan is maybe 13, 14. He has a gardener, a black African, native African, named Gordon. And Gordon has two sons, Jonathan and Robert, and they are in school. And this is during the battle where they were trying to force the children of South Africa to learn in Afrikaans, which they did not want to do. Gordon's son, the gardener, takes part in a protest against learning Afrikaans, and he's arrested by the South African Special Forces, which is the equivalent of the Nazis' SS. And he's beaten, but they let him go, so his father, Gordon, takes him to see Mr. Ben, because Gordon has worked for this guy for 15 years, and he's like, look what they did to my son. Can you help me? And originally, Mr. Ben, this is Donald Sutherland's character, says, no, you should just forget about it. But 2 days later, Jonathan is killed. The kid is like 12 or 13, and he's killed. So Gordon, the gardener, goes to work, and he's not saying anything. His whole demeanor has changed, and Donald Sutherland, as Ben du Toit, is like, what is wrong with you, man? What has happened? And so his gardener tells him. And then the Donald Sutherland character says, well, why didn't you tell me this? And Gordon says, but I'm telling you now. So the film goes on into the many apartheid era injustices with a focus on Donald Sutherland, who really liked Gordon, and whose son, Johan, really liked Jonathan, and he'd known him for 15 years. So suddenly, Gordon, the father of the murdered child, gets arrested, and he's taken away. And this kind of freaks Donald Sutherland out. So he goes to the police station. He's like, you have made a mistake. I know this guy. And they put him off, and they put him off, and, the dance begins. The dance that they do when there's a cover-up. It's a very disturbing watch. I could go on, but I don't want to, because I'm surprised by how much this movie continues to disturb me. That's number one. And two, by how agitated I got watching it now, given the current world global situation. It was scary. It made my stomach hurt, literally, physically. Having said that, if you've never watched it, or if it's been a very long time since you watched it, then I strongly urge you to watch it again. It's a good film. Hard to watch, but it's a really good film. And I will give it 10 thumbs up out of 10. 10 out of 10. And that's all I have to say for today. Y'all stay safe.